It's fair to say that the worlds of cinema and video gaming are no strangers to one another. Game developers have been mining movie licenses for decades, trying to pull in those box office numbers, and more recently, filmmakers have been cherry-picking through gaming's back catalogue in the search for the next big blockbuster. Just a shame that they're usually really gosh darned bad. That said, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the video game movie adaptation osphere, as it's known by us experts, has actually fared fractionally better lately than it has in bygone years. Ben and I went to see Rampage together last year, and we thought it was okay, which is arguably quite impressive for a video game movie, and with Detective Pikachu currently being actually quite good in a cinema near you, perhaps the turning point has truly arrived. Let's just massively gloss over Sonic and pretend it doesn't exist, otherwise my entire argument disappears in a puff of bollocks. Needless to say, the prospect of some of our favourite games hitting the big screen and not being terrible has got us excited. And when we get excited, we write lists. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 video games that would make great movies. Side note, we've not included Uncharted because that's kind of supposed to be happening if they ever actually get their arses into gear, so thought I'd just address that before half of you go nuts in the comments section when it doesn't show up. But talking of Naughty Dog, number 10, The Last of Us. Why was the clicker invited to the party? Eh? Anyone? Because he was a mushroom. A fun guy. God damn it! I'm just going to get this entry done and dusted to begin with, because in many ways, The Last of Us is so ready-made for a film adaptation that there's barely even any justification required. In fact, you might as well just skip to number 9. No, don't do that, don't do that. As you're all probably aware, this 2013 title follows Joel and Ellie as they travel across America, trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic undead mushroom nightmare. In a campaign chock full of twists and turns and countless fungus zombie brawls, second only to all the introspective human moments that The Walking Dead would be proud of, the unlikely pair learn to rely on one another, adapt to the harsh realities of their situation, and battle against the odds to stay alive and stay together. It's enough to warm even the coldest gamers' hearts, yet also to haunt the minds of the jolliest players. So, ticks all boxes, really. Get it made. Number 9, Dead Space. From one game full of corpses vaguely recognisable as human, to another, 2008's Dead Space was, like The Last of Us, a critically acclaimed masterpiece. The player became Isaac Clarke, 2 first names, but we'll let him off, an engineer who must battle his way through one metric starship full of necromorphs. I'll be honest, Necromorph remains the most 1990s sounding video game monster name since the 1990s, but I'll be damned if I'm going to say it to their faces. Just look at these guys. Ugh. Anyway, if you can actually face battling your way through hordes of necromorphs, you're supposed to be putting back the red marker, an ancient relic found whilst illegally mining the planet below. But this game isn't all alien limb removal and thrilling legal disputes about who's allowed to dig where. Without giving too much away, there's stories here of betrayal, love, and heartbreak that could be well worth a trip to the flicks if the heart-pounding horror aspect was well replicated. It wouldn't be Dead Space without that sort of thing. Oh. Number 8, Dynasty Warriors. How do you say it? Dynasty Warriors? Dynasty Warriors? Nasty Warriors? Dinosaur Warriors? Let's all just calm down and agree to disagree. Speaking of which, this is perhaps a little bit of a surprise inclusion considering the pedigree of games we've listed so far, but stay with me for this. The Dynasty Warriors hack-and-slash style franchise maybe isn't the first thing you think of when discussing potential Hollywood movies with thrilling narratives and characters that you just want to be, but if you pull away the arcade gameplay and the, slightly corny cutscenes, there is a real-life inspired war for power here, not unlike an Eastern version of Game of Thrones. Yeah, a bit hammier maybe, but please stay with me. That's right, the characters and battles in the series are all based off real historical people and events. I mean, sure, there probably was a lot less magic when it actually went down in history, and I'm not sure any of the actual warriors used weapons such as hand fans and nunchucks to defeat their enemies, but hey, whoever let the truth get in the way of a good story and, think about it, an incredible visual spectacle. Sure to be a popcorn-munching, action-packed, cheesy thrill ride, a Dynasty Warriors film series could gain some serious traction, and, worst-case scenario, a really bad Dynasty Warriors movie might at least give us more hysterical voice acting to digest.
Feel the power of my magic!
Number 7, Far Cry 3. Don't you just hate it, right? When you're holidaying on a tropical island, celebrating your younger brother getting his pilot's license, we've all been there, and you get kidnapped by a pirate lord who plans to sell you and your friends into slavery. Oh god, this game is nothing if not relatable. Okay, so Far Cry 3 isn't a shrine to realism, but then again, neither is a group of necromorphs attacking a bunch of space miners, and yet we'd all watch that movie, so maybe just listen to what I've got to say, okay? This summer movie the world desperately needs follows the story of Jason Brody as he tries to save his pals from the aforementioned pirates by allying himself with a tribe of warriors and becoming the lethal weapon he was always destined to be. There is of course the other highly relatable bit where he has an affair with the leader of the tribe who then, and we've all been there, drugs him, screws him and finally stabs him to death in first person. Maybe they leave that bit on the cutting room floor. Regardless, beautiful scenery, warm weather, pirates, tribes, and sexy moments. This one has hit written all over it. In fact, where's my phone? Does anyone have Universal's number? Number 6, the Mass Effect trilogy. The original Mass Effect series from 2007's Mass Effect to 2012's Mass Effect 3 is a prime example of gaming getting it mostly right, where movies can sometimes get it horrendously wrong. That is, a well-told story spread over multiple installments with no lull in entertainment. The player takes charge of Commander Shepard, a man or woman who is destined to save the entire galaxy from the Geth, the Collectors, and the Reapers, just because they share their last name with the first American in space. Alright, good for you. Okay, no, it's slightly more nuanced than nominative determinism, but I guess I'm still just holding out hope that I'll be 6-time WWF World Heavyweight Champion one day. A ready-made package with plenty of potential for spin-offs, Mass Effect seems like an easy deal for any movie studio wanting to replicate the success of, well, numerous recent sci-fi films, and frankly, a movie version of Mass Effect certainly wouldn't go down any worse than the franchise's most recent video game offerings. Number 5, Halo Combat Evolved. There are some people in this world who wouldn't take a Microsoft console off your hands for free, such as their allegiance to Sony PlayStation products. But literally, if the first Halo game hadn't been a PC and Xbox exclusive, so many of those PS boys and girls would be staunch defenders of Master Chief and his Ringworld exploits, and you can bet they'd all be queuing outside the theatre for the midnight release of a Halo movie. Rumours of a film inspired by Xbox's unofficial mascot have been pootling around the internet since 2004. But while Steven Spielberg allegedly has a TV series currently in the works, a silver screen blockbuster is still yet to come into fruition. And I just don't get it. Bursting onto the scene with 2001's Halo Combat Evolved, Bungie's FPS trilogy went on to become one of the world's best known and commercially successful video game series of the past few decades, and for good reason. The franchise follows Master Chief John 117, a biochemically and cybernetically engineered Spartan super soldier in the 26th century, as he tries to save the galaxy from a group of allied alien races known as the Covenant. Better yet though, is that it's not a cut and dry them versus us, good versus evil sci-fi war story, as it turns out that a giant ring-shaped world found floating in space, worshipped by the Covenant zealots, is actually a prison and weapon of mass destruction designed to prevent the spread of a third faction, the Flood, who are parasite zombie boys and often go on weekend city breaks with the Clickers and Necromorphs. They all went to prep school together, apparently, and I think it's adorable they keep in touch. With a complex and extensive universe, along with a well-told narrative, iconic protagonist, and thrilling soundtrack, it's hard to think of any reason why the Halo franchise shouldn't make it to the pictures. In the meantime, I just hope Spielberg knows what he's doing. Number 4, Watch Dogs. Ubisoft's Watch_Dogs delved deep into the dark art of computer hacking, venturing down an avenue that Hollywood doesn't often explore beyond a few scenes of feverish typing and people saying, "I'm in," and moaning about firewalls. A story undeniably for the modern world, the 2014 title set in Chicago follows bank robber and hacker, are we actually sure he's a good guy? He sounds pretty wayward to me, Aiden Pierce, as he tries to avenge his niece's death and rescue his little sister, embroiling himself in the the murky world of politics and other dodgy dealings. Now, it's certainly true this game didn't have exclusively positive feedback upon its release, with some critics complaining about the fairly predictable and cliched plot and apparent graphical downgrade from its E3 reveal to the final build. But overall, the game did review pretty well, achieving an average score of about 80%. That's better than most. What's more, however, the franchise is set to deliver its third installment sometime in the future, meaning screenwriters have a fair amount of content to cherry pick from. So with a little tweaking here and there, it is hard to deny that the premise for a Watch Dogs film could be an interesting one. Think Mission Impossible, but with loads and loads of breached privacy policies. Oh, how diabolical. Number 3, BIOSHOCK. I'm sure at this point I don't need to give you a rundown of BIOSHOCK's narrative, because there's something about this title that sees it appear in video game top 10s all the goddamn time, like incessantly. I've been making this sort of content on and off for nearly 4 years now, and it's bloody unbelievable how often BIOSHOCK qualifies for a spot in all the most desirable lists. Most interesting video game worlds, most iconic video game enemies, coolest video game abilities, and of course, craziest video game plot twists. Surely then, this bad boy deserves nothing less than to be slapped square in the chops with the Hollywood treatment and projected onto every screen it'll fit on. The incredible contrast of gleaming Art Deco architecture and dank, damp post-apocalyptia is a visual style that remains one of my favourites in all of video gaming. The juxtaposition of Andrew Ryan's utopian vision and the tweaker-filled hellhole Rapture ultimately became is a setting that would lend itself unbelievably well for an adaptation, either of the first game's story, beat for beat, or even an entirely new narrative set sometime between Rapture's golden age and Jack's arrival in the undersea slum it ultimately becomes. Number 2, Fallout 3. With the frankly perilous state of world politics as it is, the movie studios better get around to making the Fallout 3 film sooner rather than later, while it still remains a truly fictional piece of work. Set in a post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C., Fallout 3 centers on an unspecified player-created character known as the Lone Wanderer, as they set out to initially find their father, who suddenly leaves their nuclear bunker home on their 19th birthday, and then help him finish his work on a water purifier that would help bring life back to the wasteland. Now, everyone loves a post-apocalyptic survival movie, but when said apocalypse is caused by nuclear warheads, the resultant world is often rather barren and devoid of colour and character. While this definitely is the case for Fallout 3's wilderness areas, the game's settlements are far from bleak and lifeless, and it's this Americana-tinged society, cobbled together from corrugated iron and star-spangled banners, that this franchise can flaunt as something rather unique. Dystopian movies don't always have to be about knifing someone for a packet of dehydrated mashed potato, so it's high time someone gave us a nuclear wasteland film whose opening credits are accompanied by the jolly lyrics of "Bingle Bangle Bungle, I'm so happy in the jungle I refuse to go." Fun for all the family, I reckon. And number 1, Red Dead Redemption. You just can't go wrong with a Western, can you? Think Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Gene Wilder. Think gunslingers, Stetson hats, jewels at dawn, and dodgy, often racist depictions of Native Americans. Okay, maybe you can go a bit wrong with Westerns, but you get my point. And it's been far too long since the last highlight in this classic genre. Obviously, I'm talking about Will Smith's Wiki Wiki Wild Wild West. So, step forward, Red Dead Redemption. This behemoth of a video game received big-time critical acclaim back in 2010 and shipped over 15 million copies by 2017. The player takes control of former outlaw John Marston during the decline of the American frontier. His goal? To bring the remaining members of his old gang to justice in order to be himself granted amnesty so he can live an honest lifestyle on a ranch with his family away from his criminal past. Admittedly, if it's happy endings you're after from your Wiki Wiki Wild Wild Westerns, maybe this game doesn't have the makings of your new favourite cowboy flick, as of course, it doesn't end particularly well for John. But hey, you're a video game fan, you don't want happy endings. So come on, let's be having it, Rockstar. With some canny casting and direction, it's hard to see how a Red Dead Redemption movie could be anything other than a rootin'-tootin' cowboy shootin' blockbuster, it says in the script. What a way to end. And that's our list, but what other games do you think should make it to the big silver screen? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and if you want to support the things you enjoy, then why not check out the rewards on our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I've been Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.